North Smithfield Planning Board meeting for Thursday at 7 p.m. First order of business is roll call. Mr. Menard is not, Mr. Fournier is not here. Mr. Punchak?
Here.
Mr. Porter?
Here.
Mr. Keene?
Here.
Mr. Menard?
Here.
And the chair is here. Next on the agenda, please review the meetings from the April 14th, 2022 meeting and bring up any comments or corrections you feel need to be made.
Not having paper really threw me off this one.
Right?
I'm not good at it.
Excuse me. Any questions or comments?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as is.
Okay, we have a motion to accept as is.
Second.
We have multiple seconds. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nope. Meeting minutes are accepted as is. Next item, disclosure and notice. Disclosure. Planning board members with any potential conflicts on the matters before the board this evening. Mr. Keene?
Yes, for item 10, I'd like to recuse myself to speak on behalf of the
Understood.
amendment.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Item 5, disclosure and notice. Planning board members disclose any ex parte communications about any contested or material adjudicatory facts or opinions concerning the merits of any application before the board this evening. Hearing none. Declaration of voting members. So for this evening, for all items other than item 10, Mr. Punchak, Mr. Porter, Mr. Keene, Mr. Menard, and myself will be voting. For the item 10 for the ordinance, it'll be Mr. Punchak, Mr. Porter, Mr. Menard, and myself.
Item 9.
Sorry, item 9, not item 10. Okay, with that,
Before we get started, I would like to make a motion to move item 9 to be the next item on the agenda, and then proceed as it's written.
okay, we have a motion to move the item on the
Second.
ordinance, and we have a second. Roll call vote on that. Mr. Punchak,
Yes.
Mr. Porter,
Yes.
Mr. Menard?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, so with that, item 9 on your agenda is now item 7. Let me just bring that up. Here we go. Okay, this is an amendment to the town zoning ordinance on section 13 amendments. The applicant is the North Smithfield Historic District Commission and Heritage Association. Zoning ordinance amendment to section 13. Which of you would like to give a summary of the changes to be made?
So as you gentlemen are aware, there was a request to update the zone change requirements for historic overlay districts only with regard to notice, the type of notice, and the area of notice. We did propose an amendment, I think, a couple of meetings ago, and we took in some comment from the board, went back, reworked the amendment with the comments of the board in mind, and have submitted this amended language to the planning board for consideration. If the planning board moves favorable, this would go to the town council for action to amend the zone change requirements for local historic districts only, reducing the notice area to 200 feet and reducing certified mail to first class. Those are basically the major changes proposed in the amendment.
Okay, thanks. And representing the Historic Association, Mr. Keene, you're going to speak? Okay.
Rich Keene, 7 Bamford Street, speaking on behalf of the North Smithfield Heritage Association. Unfortunately, Jeff Harris has a conflict tonight and is unable to speak on behalf of the Historic District Commission. But as Mr. Carullo just explained, this is basically just an effort to simplify the process and make it less expensive for property owners of historic properties to have their properties designated as local historic districts.
So it's only for the new application process, there's no retroactive
No.
impact or anything like that, all right? Any questions or comments from the board? No? All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Do you want me to turn this off?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to send this along to town council with a positive recommendation for adoption.
Okay, we have a motion to accept it,
Second.
and we have a second. Roll call vote on this, Mr. Punchak,
Yes.
Mr. Porter,
Yes.
Mr. Menard,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So, thank you, Mr. Keene. Mr. Keene will rejoin us now as a voting member. Okay, so with that, the new and improved item 8, if I can find it. Okay, next item, minor subdivision 393 Douglas Pike, Assessor's Plat 14, Assessor's lots 21 and 217, the applicant Edward Baffoni and Leah Scalzo et al. Zoned rural agricultural, the area is 74 plus acres, number of lots 4. Mr. Carullo, would you like to give a summary?
Basically, this is a request to subdivide a 70-plus acre parcel to create, well, the application was initially, I believe, for 2 new house lots, but I think it'll be amended this evening to only request 1 additional house lot. The lot is fully conforming with the zoning district, and the remaining lot is substantial and fully conforming with the zoning district. There's really nothing more to add.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brian King from Crossman Engineering. Brian King from Crossman Engineering. We had prepared the plans, and I can give a quick overview of what Mr. Carullo had said. So the parcel is off of Douglas Pike. It's approximately 74 acres in size. This is the parcel right here. There are 2 proposed lots, 65,000 square feet lots. And if I could, those 2 lots up in the corner there, we were originally proposing a 60-foot area that would access the remaining portion of this parcel here. This parcel also has frontage off of Douglas Pike in this area here, over 400 linear feet. In this here area as well, 400 linear feet, but in discussions with Mr. Carullo, I guess it was determined that leaving that 60-foot section, even though the parcel does have frontage in 2 other areas, doesn't meet the frontage requirement. So I guess, you know, if that is the case, we would rather not go to zoning, and we would request to remove one of the proposed lots. So it would only be a 1-lot additional lot instead of 2 additional lots.
And which of the 2 lots that are currently proposed, is it the top 2?
So the one that would remain would be the one on the upper portion of the sheet,
Oh, okay.
which is I guess the northwest side.
Right. Oh, so the 2 new ones are the ones on either side of the 60-foot?
Correct.
Okay,
I can't quite reach it, but
that's all right.
it's that little sliver of land.
Right.
Actually, could we go to plan number 1, please?
Yeah.
So this is a close-up, actually, of that.
Ah,
This is the end property line, and the 74-acre piece is right here. This is an existing lot, and this is an existing lot. So the proposed two lots was here and here, with keeping a 60-foot area just for future. There's no plans right now, but, you know, it's just trying to use, I guess, smart engineering. But I guess there was a concern with the frontage, if that's the way it's interpreted. You know, even though there's frontage on two other, you know, locations. So we'd
Mr.
rather-
Creel, could you expand a little bit on the frontage? Is there,
Well, a
Not enough?
definition of frontage is any portion of a lot that touches a street, and the minimum
Right.
frontage is 200 feet for the area. So if you create an area of frontage less than 200 feet, it's non-conforming.
okay, so even if you have, it's not the sum total?
No, it is
Ah,
not. And
okay.
it actually specifically states that in the code, that it's not cumulative.
Right,
What I would say is, I did inquire to the applicant whether that was going to be considered for a future roadway, in which case we could do a phased development and dedicate that for roadway, but that wasn't something that was being contemplated at this time.
okay.
It looked to me, when you look at it, you know, and the lot's fairly substantial, you know, potentially that could be
Right.
an access road coming into a development if you were to develop the remainder of the property, but
Okay, well, actually, I mean, there's no plans for a future development, but that was the idea, really, is to leave the ability for something like that. So I'm not sure if that's still an option to phase this somehow, and how that can be identified during the final plan recording.
you'd have to identify that as a future roadway.
Okay.
It would have to be, you know, the concern could be, and not that this is going to
I
happen,
understand.
and it
Right.
could never happen, but as people over time subdivide a lot and there's frontage remaining there, you could conceivably subdivide that lot and just leave a flag-shaped lot in the back with only 60 feet of frontage.
Yeah,
That's the concern,
Right.
long-term.
right,
And that's why they, you know, they create the option of doing a phased development. I wouldn't necessarily require them to do a phased development, but if it was going to be designated as a future roadway, and I would ask for a note to be, if it's not, then it would be then disbanded and dedicated to the abutting property owner, similar to a paper street, if it wasn't developed in the future. That's kind of the trade-off. You know, normally, if someone was coming in, we would do a phased development, and that would be future roadway for phase 2, 3, 4.
right.
But that's not, that wasn't the intent at this point,
I mean, I
don't
think that
believe.
was probably,
point,
I mean,
I
I
don't
think
believe.
that was probably, you know, the possibility of doing that, but,
Right.
but there's no plan. So
I understood.
is there a time limit on that?
On a phased, no, so it would be almost like a diffusable easement, Brian, right? So
Yeah.
you'd say, this is gonna be reserved for future use for a roadway as a diffusable easement or something like that, and if you don't, should it not be, then it would be extinguished and kind of split in half and put into those abutting lots.
Right.
That's what I would
Is that
suggest.
what you want to do? Okay. I guess if we can do that, we would prefer to do that instead of eliminating one of the lots. We would like to keep both lots.
Yeah.
And then keep that 60-foot area for, you know, potential future roadway, because really that's what it would be for, even though there's no plans, but to do that now.
Right.
But yeah, then I guess we would like to keep the two lots with that designation if that's possible. And we'd be willing to do that on any final plans that's recorded. And hopefully if this, you know, does get approval tonight, we'd like to do any final plan, you know, administratively.
Other comments from the board?
Architectural, I'm not. Archaeological study, has there been a study done there?
There was a study done by PAL, and they did focus on the Lot A, which is to the west, and they had no cultural resources that were found. They did send it to the RIHPC, and it was cleared by them, meaning no other study was needed for the proposed Lot A or the proposed Lot B. So we did get clearance from the RIHPC.
So what Mr. King is saying is correct. I have the report, which is confidential. I have the letter from RIHPC, and out of an abundance of caution prior to docketing this, I reached out to RIHPC to ask about the other lot, and they sent an additional letter saying that there was no need to do any more investigation on that second lot as it's proposed. I think that might have been sent to you, gentlemen, in an email. If not, I have them here in the file if you'd like to see them.
Can I follow up on that?
Yep, Mr. King? Yep.
So, who's the owner? Are you the owner? Okay. I'm with I'm Rich Keenan with the North Smithfield Heritage Association. Ken is related to you?
My wife's cousin.
Yeah, okay. He took us up on a walk back there a couple of years ago and showed us there's some stone walls and some stone heaps that the Native American Indian tribes claim are Native American in origin. Ken said that your grandfather told him that the same thing, that they were Native American. Are any of those stone features on these two proposed lots?
No,
Okay.
no,
Yeah.
they've been there, they've been even, you know, when the archaeological survey came, we showed them the other areas allegedly,
Yeah.
supposed to, you know, but that was never proven,
Yeah.
100%.
I-
Everybody
yeah.
assumed
Let
it
me
over
just-
the years, that's,
Sure.
as far as it's going,
Yeah.
this is nowhere,
Okay.
nowhere near.
I don't have a problem with the two lots that you're proposing at all, but I would have a problem if there is going to be future development back there. I would want to have discussions about finding ways to preserve those stone features
Can-
somehow.
Yes,
Excuse me,
told that,
I just need to interrupt. Could you just come up to the microphone and introduce yourself so we know who we're talking to?
I'm sorry, yeah, my name's
Sorry
Ed
for the
Baffoni, 393 Douglas Pike.
Okay.
And yes, we've been told that any kind of development has to be done, we have to have an archaeological survey on any part of it to do anything. So that's why, at this
Yeah.
point, we just limited it to the lots that we were, you know,
Right,
working
okay.
on now. But when time comes, I'm assuming
Because this is
that will
in
be
the
part of
Nipsachuk
the
area.
procedure.
Yeah.
So as
Yeah.
far as you know, they did come, we had them, they
Okay.
came, they got all, you know, everything went through the state, was approved, and so
Okay.
yes. To go any
Yeah.
further, yes, I agree there would be any kind of
Yeah.
archaeological survey for anything
Well, yeah,
further.
I'm not worried about a survey because I know what's there,
Yeah,
but I would.
well, okay,
yeah.
you do, well, you're assuming what's there, but it's okay.
Yeah, we
That's-
both know what's there, it's just, it's an interpretation of what,
Yeah, I mean, it's
what it
stone
is.
walls, who says it's farming and who's,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
but,
So maybe we can have a discussion afterwards.
yeah, sure, yeah,
Yeah.
we've invited plenty of people
Yeah.
up there to see it. It's not a
Yeah.
secret, we don't hide it, it's, you know, we don't want people up there trespassing through it, but it is a
Sure.
very interesting
Yeah.
area for sure,
Terrific.
so,
Okay.
but
No,
that's it,
thank
thank
you.
you.
All right, all set. Mr. Punchak?
How about a PAP from DOT for the two driveways?
Yes, prior to receiving a building permit or construction, you would have to get a physical alteration permit. Yep, because it's a state road for a residential driveway. We did also do some soil evaluations. DEM was there on both lots, and the soils are very consistent. We had a relatively deep water table, 60 inches. That was a design water table. You know, it was a gravelly, loamy sand gravelly. So it was good conditions for on-site septic and for, you know, any underground system that you would want for the rooftop.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Keen?
I have one other concern. So that property is part of a contiguous forest that extends from basically Manatee Road up in the north, south, well into Smithfield, down to Burlingame Road on Weenkeeg Hill. And in our comprehensive plan, we talk about the concern about fragmenting large tracts of forest. So, again, I don't have a problem with two lots, but this is one of the biggest, or it is the biggest forest in southwestern North Smithfield. And again, I have some concerns about destroying that forest over time, you know, and it's bit by bit.
I mean,
I'd like to actually address that issue, but as an option, we've had a lot of surveyors up there as far as the Indians, different tribes. We've had the town up there to look it over. And an option was that we was open to possibly open space through the town. So, I mean, everybody seems to think that it's very interesting and very historical, but nobody wants to step up, you know what I mean? So now we've been forced to go this route. But I myself personally would rather see it preserved myself. So if there's an option to speak to someone about possible open space, we'd be willing to go that route, because it is a beautiful area, but that's, I just thought I'd mention that too.
One option is to maybe consider a small conservation development where we can relax certain requirements in order to preserve open space, larger tracts of open space.
But you're talking about for future development of the remaining 74 acres,
Not pertaining to this.
not
Right.
for these
Right.
two.
Right,
Right.
so, and I understand that the town, that your family negotiated with the town, or tried to negotiate with the town to purchase that property, and unfortunately couldn't come to an agreement. And, you know, I wish that it hadn't been closed to the public, but anyway, yeah, that's a concern, is the,
Yeah, I think
Forest.
if and when the time comes for a larger development, particularly, you know, putting in that roadway and all that, yeah, that would definitely be a major topic, so.
Understood.
Mr. Punchak?
Two more questions. So all of these new property lines will have granite bounds set at them?
If that's the requirement, that's what the plan says, or?
And not so much that it really matters, but this shed that crosses over the property line, you see that? There's a little shed on Flavia and Hicks property, on that property line.
Yeah.
To propose lot A. I don't know if you guys know.
Yeah,
Maybe I don't know.
I'm not sure how that would be dealt with, or if it's an issue, really. Yeah.
Something you may want to deal with. Now, question for you, the planner, since it's a subdivision, granted we're not building a road, but do they technically need a waiver for sidewalks and curbing? Because you are subdividing, no?
No, it's a minor subdivision, so those
Yeah.
development review regulations, because they are not putting in a road, they don't come into play.
Okay.
Should they bring that 60-foot road in and go in, then the whole thing would have to
Right.
comply.
Alrighty, I'm done.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mark, you're looking for a vote from us? Is that it? Okay. Thoughts from the board?
I move that we approve the,
If I may, Mr. Chairman, before you vote, I would propose to change stipulation number 1 to say that the proposed 60-foot distance between proposed lots A and B be designated as future roadway to be extinguished if not needed into the abutting lots, something along those lines. So basically, I would like some kind of resolution to that.
Is there a specific section or clause in the ordinance, in the zoning ordinance, that we could refer to for that? Because I know that when you have like a paper street, that's exactly what happens, but.
Yeah,
And that's in
no,
compliance.
well, if they designated this future roadway, then it virtually becomes a paper street, Mr. Chairman. That's what we would be
Okay.
doing, but they wouldn't be building it, so I would fall back on that. My expectation is that should they come forward with a subdivision of some effect, that would probably be a point of access, looping around and coming out on the far end. And if not, if it ends up going for open space or a conservation development or something like that, when that project comes back,
Right.
we'll readdress it at that point.
So, well, what would be the basis for the time limit? Because it does need to have a time limit.
Well, it actually, the time, it doesn't actually need a time limit,
Oh.
because it would be more or less a paper street that could be affected at any future time when a subdivision If the town was to purchase it, if the town was to purchase the lot, at that point, it would be extinguished.
Right,
Or if a subdivision came forward, at that point, it would be utilized or extinguished.
right. Oh, okay, so it's
Yeah.
one of those events is what.
Yes, it would
causes
be,
the
it would be
trigger. Okay.
stipulated on the plat, recorded as a note on the plat, and a stipulation on the plat, should they not follow through at any future project affecting the property, it would be addressed at that point. If it sat there forever and they never came back, then it would just sit there as a paper street, more or less.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll leave it to you to come up with the appropriate wording for that.
Yeah, it would be something along the lines that it be designated as a future roadway to be extinguished should it not be utilized in a future development, something along that lines. I'll perfect that language.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be important to identify the events that would cause it to
Yes.
extinguish.
Agreed.
Okay. So with that, are we ready for a motion? Could you put your,
Thank you. I'll move that we approve the minor subdivision for 393 Douglas Pike with the three stipulations, that the 60-foot road distance between the two proposed lots will be designated as a future roadway
Mhm.
to be extinguished upon a future development.
future development or
Or
purchase by the town for
purchase.
open space?
That the final plan shall indicate the building envelope, zoning setbacks on proposed lots A and B, and that, number three, that a RIDOT physical alteration permit shall be issued prior to the issuance of a building permit for proposed lots A and B, and such stipulation shall be included on the final plan under the general notes.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second for Mr. Punchak. Roll call vote. Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Mr. Porter.
Yes.
Mr. Keane.
Yes.
Ms. Menard.
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
Do we need a motion for final administratively? Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion for the final plan to be done administratively.
We have a motion for that. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Roll call vote.
Yes.
Punchak, Mr. Porter,
Yes.
Mr. Keane,
Yes.
Mr. Menard,
Yes.
and chair votes yes. So, great. All right, thank you. Okay. I know. He was right on that. Okay, next item on the agenda. Public informational meeting continued from the April 14th, 2022 Planning Board meeting. Major land development, Ponham Solar, lot location, and this still says 0 and 850 Iron Mine Hill Road, I guess. Assessor's Plat 16, Assessor's lots 18 and 19, applicant is Islander Solar LLC. It's owned rural agricultural, the area is 22 plus acres, and the number of lots are 2. So, Mr. Carullo, just want to give us a recap, get us back on page.
As you're aware, Mr. Chairman, board members, this application was before the board at the last meeting. There was an error in the notice, and the board recommended and the applicant agreed to continue and re-notify. This project is requesting a solar project to be constructed on a 22-acre lot and with primary access to a residential lot at 850 Iron Mine Road. If you go through the planning board findings, you'll see several dimensional variances or zoning variances that they're requesting in conjunction with this property. I think that the applicant will be coming up and explaining the property in greater detail. I think there was some discussion at the last meeting. There was some presentation made by the applicant at that meeting. So I imagine that they would follow up on that at this point.
Right.
Thomas Carlotto from Dara Evett for the applicant.
I also have with us Jason Gold, our engineer, and Jeff Martin from my client representative. I think we left it, we were essentially done with our presentation, as I understood it at the last meeting. If you have more questions, certainly we can answer those, but I think that we continue to allow the open meeting portion to be continued to today, so that
Yeah,
people
to
can
have
comment.
the second notice. that
Great,
we-
the second notice went out. I do have an affidavit of notice that I'll get to the planner. It was
Okay.
advertised, so at this point, I'd like to have that portion considered, and if you have additional questions, we can certainly answer them. I also would like to address the stipulations that the planner is recommending, because I do have some comments to those.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So with that, motion to open the informational meeting, or I should say, reopen.
I'll make that motion to reopen the public hearing.
I'll second it. And we have a second? Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The public informational hearing is reopened at 7:31. So if anybody would like to speak, please come up to the podium, introduce yourself, and then state your questions or concerns.
Evening. Donald Croto. I'm in a butter to that property.
Can you please spell your last name?
Croteau.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I do have a couple of questions about the notices. Did it go out to the city of Woonsocket, since they are in a butter?
Okay, thank you.
And how far distance on the road were they notified?
Yeah, the affidavit indicates certified mail to all owners of real property within 500 feet, so
That's the,
an affidavit on the road.
that's the requirement, is the 500 feet.
Yeah, well, the house next to us, he's on an oxygen tank, he couldn't leave his house. Following house, closer to that area, he passed away fairly recently.
Oh.
On the other side of the driveway, the second house, that's waiting to be closed on, it's been sold. So
Gotcha.
directly across the street from me is the house. He's not an owner, he just rents the house.
Hmm,
So there's only a few people that actually,
right. I mean, they're all within that 500-foot distance, I imagine, right?
right.
Yeah.
Right. So, spoke to a couple of friends also about the solar farm. And they said that they do not use landscape companies to cut the grass, weeds, or brush. They kill everything with chemicals. I spoke to my son, who owned a large landscape company, and he said basically that was a norm. And he suggested if you do decide to let them do this, to take soil samples along the boundaries and have it tested for, in case of any future issues.
Okay.
Same with the well, we'll do the same thing on the wells, it's all wells there. And as I said on the last meeting, you know, the abutter, the city of Woonsocket, they bought all those properties to make sure nobody put anything that could endanger the water supply to the city of Woonsocket. Because there is a brook or whatever running across the back of that. And there are wetlands over there also.
Okay. Do we have does one of the maps show the watershed area that feeds into the Woonsocket Reservoir? Just to help clarify what you're saying. Is that,
I don't know if you have anything,
but they're looking for it. Hmm? Well, but except that I would've thought that'd be included on one of, at least on one of the drawings here to show how it is either part of it or not. Thought we required that in the plans. No. Just from, if you could, yeah. Where should we be looking? Okay. So that, okay. But you just don't, it doesn't identify the actual watershed area, though? No. And you don't have a drawing that does include that? To show how much, if any, of the watershed area this property is part of? No, but I mean, but the watershed area could be on this property, a portion of the watershed area could be on this property, though. Yeah, I'm just interested in that part of it, that's all.
No, we don't have anything that will show the watershed.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Now, did anybody from the board go and look at that property?
No, we're gonna talk about that this evening.
Okay, because, and it says it's, 22 acres. It's more than 22 acres. It's larger than my property. I'm thinking it's closer to 30 acres. Because it does say on the plot plan, 22 plus
Right.
acres.
Well, I believe that 22 plus is representing the project, or is that designated, or
That's
is
the-
it designating the entire property?
That's what it shows on the plot plan. The original from. I have
Mr.
from
Chairman,
years ago.
the 22 acres is the area that's for the solar farm.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, that's for the power plant. So it's not, they're not saying that the property is 22 plus acres, it is, but I mean, they're saying the area for the solar power plant is, to be developed, is 22 acres, or a little over 22 acres,
Well,
which means that there's approximately 8 acres that are not impacted by it.
Right, well, yeah, because I'm saying, it doesn't say it on the original plot plans from what I've had for the last 40 years. It shows 22 plus acres
Oh, it
for
does,
for that whole parcel, but I know
Okay.
it's more than that.
right.
When we looked at the map,
I'm Sorry.
I brought the map, we requested at the last
Mhm.
meeting that they bring the map and they bring it, and they had time to look at that.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, we still have issues with the surveying, how that was laid out. It's got red markers, it's got blue markers. I have no idea how it.
Who have you talked to about resolving the questions or apparent, at least perceived conflict between that?
Yeah, I haven't talked to anybody other than,
Okay.
I brought it up here.
I mean, it would seem to make sense to have, to resolve any of those issues, because obviously you have the property surveyed. Okay, right. So it would make sense to,
I mean, that property's been surveyed several times since I've been.
sure, but I mean, but we're not in the surveying business, right? So
Right.
it just would seem to make sense to work directly with, right? You'd be open to, yeah. So they'd be, yeah. And probably, and we could include that as part of a site visit as well. But I do encourage you to have independent conversations, get it resolved faster, okay? And if there's a mistake, there's a mistake, and it'll need to be resolved,
Right,
okay?
that's fair. I still have concerns about blasting up if they're gonna end up having to do. There's a lot of ledge and stone in that area.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons we talked about having a site work. Okay. Thanks.
And one of the things that we're also looking to eliminate was the planting of pine trees if it does go through. And I would ask that definitely have pine trees, because I don't want to be looking at a solar farm on a, I got trails, trails
Well,
runs all around up through the back of there.
we require evergreen buffering for all of them, you know, within, following line of sight rules. So the general time when we don't accept it is if something on the backside is, say, either industrial or maybe if it's along the national grid, you know, that's not as important to block off, but certainly to protect the view for any neighbors.
Yeah, because again, I border 800 feet of that property, so.
That's, the buffering is on, and you have the buffering on here, right? Yeah, it'd probably be helpful to, if you could.
Yeah, if you can go to...
Could you just come reintroduce yourself, please?
My name is Jason Gold. I'm a civil engineer with the ESS Group.
Yeah.
One more sheet. Well, yeah, let's try one more sheet. Right, so we're showing the existing vegetation
Mhm.
to remain within, but this is the existing vegetation, that distance. It's a 50-foot vegetated existing buffer. And that's around the whole property.
Okay. And where is your property in relationship to that? So it's on the east side? Okay. So is that buffering evergreen? That existing
No cut,
vegetation?
isn't it?
I'm sorry?
It's no cut, 50 feet.
It's no cut, exactly.
Yeah,
It's no cut. It's what's
So
there.
from the property line, 50 feet, they can't touch.
Right.
Right. But if it's deciduous trees or shrubs and that kind of stuff, then in the wintertime,
Whatever's there is there.
is visible.
So if we wanted to say,
Right.
request additional,
Because we normally do require evergreen
Right.
buffer for that
And
very
we had
purpose.
talked at the last meeting, you had asked for some additional plantings as needed along the north side.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
under stipulation 5, recommended stipulation 5,
Mm-hmm.
it says the applicant shall provide a formal planting plan stamped by a Rhode Island registered landscape architect that provides the evergreen buffer within the 100-foot buffer as required by zoning section 5.75G, visual buffer and setback prior to preliminary approval.
There we go.
That's a stipulation that was contemplated. If the board desires to place that, approve this and
Right.
put that stipulation on the development, they'll be required to come back with that. I think that will address the gentleman's
Absolutely.
concerns
Right. Right.
moving forward.
It's also consistent with what we've done on every other solar power plant, so. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Lastly, is still issue about they're cutting all that property. From everything across the street, from that huge solar farm.
Mhm.
Everything's coming across on our side. And there's gonna be a lot of starving animals and stuff. And right now, in the last year, I've seen red squirrels, which I've never seen in 40 years, over 40 years of being up there, which had to have come from the other side. And squirrels, and the worst problem, mice.
Hmm.
I mean, I've probably killed close to 200 mice this past year. Never had this kind of, they got no place anymore. So everything's coming over to,
Right.
and now we're gonna take out another parcel.
Right. And this is for Jason. At this point, is it known whether or not any blasting will be required?
No blasting is proposed.
So there's no plans for blasting. So we can make that a stipulation, and you're comfortable with that? Okay. That should satisfy that one?
Yeah, that would
Great.
be helpful.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? No? Okay, if you could. Say more than a couple, it's early.
My name is Jeff Martin. I'm with Islander Solar LLC. The parent company is Nautilus Solar Energy. I've been working there for 2.5 years. I think maybe what's lost a little bit in this conversation when we're talking about potential chemicals, potential evergreen buffers, stuff like that, is what the solar project is for, right? And I don't know if it's been discussed at all, but we have the Public Housing Authority of Rhode Island as under an offtake agreement with us, and that's public knowledge. So the benefits of the solar electricity is going to be discounted utility bills for low-income residents of the community. Lincoln, Smithfield, Providence, North Providence, Newport, these are some of the member organizations that have subscribed to this. So I think that's kind of important, to remember. And it is land that we own. We have Mr. Othier here, who has provided access. So he is a stakeholder in this. He's providing the access through an access lease. But we own the land, and yeah, we've had surveyors out there, and I was out there today, and yeah, there's blue tape and pink tape and yellow tape and all kinds of things, but it's on our land, and we surveyed it, but we're happy to have a conversation with that about it. They mean different things. There's a limit of disturbance, there's a fence line, there's, the 100-foot setback from the property line, so they mean different things. We're happy to work with you on educating you on what that is, but those are flags that are on our property.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
So, we look forward to developing this and getting it across the finish line, because it's a long time that some of these stakeholders have been waiting. The Public Housing Authority has been waiting for. And, it's a landlocked piece of property. There's not much use for it there, and we're going to be good stewards of it. The whole array, I believe, is only 6 acres. So it's not the 22. The property, I think itself, is 22. I don't want to represent that hard and fast, but that is part of our application materials. The 22 plus minus adds a little bit in there, but it doesn't balloon it up to 122 or even 30, I would say. So it's a good use of the land. There's a lot of square foot, a lot of linear feet between our proposed system and all of the abutters. It's in the neighborhood of, I think, not counting Mr. Othier's land, who's close, but he's obviously a stakeholder and a proponent of this project. It's over 400 feet, between the limit of disturbance and the nearest structure. How far it is to the actual property line of the neighbor, I don't profess to know that. But in terms of how much existing vegetation is there, is quite a bit, and we plan on keeping it all there, and if we need to do some evergreen planting per the requirements of the stipulations, happy to do that. But that's really all I wanted to say, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for clarifying. One thing you did that clarified was that there was the misconception around the acreage. Mostly, and I'll say, I helped create some of that, because what I thought it was is that the actual development part of it was the 22 acres, and you pointed out that it's just around 6.
The fence there, I believe, is going to be 6. There is a tree cutting, it's trimming, I think, that expands that a little bit for the application materials, but it's nowhere near that.
Yeah, so it's less than 50%, certainly, so that's, no, it sounds like they're cutting less than half that. Maybe as little as a third.
Oh, and as a practice, we don't use chemicals in any way to destroy the vegetation.
Right.
We like the natural vegetation. We have a mowing plan. We've also had to submit that, I believe. You've seen our operations and maintenance plan. And yeah, we like the vegetation down there. We don't want to correct that. We've got a stormwater prevention plan as well. That would
Yeah.
so that's, I believe.
Right. Okay, well, we have another gentleman to hear from.
Hello, Steve Schleicher, 550 Iron Mine Hill Road. I don't abut it, but I moved here just as they were building the golf course solar farm, so I had the windows shaking during blasting. But my concern is as the other solar farm, my well is like 15 feet from the road, and there will be more construction vehicles, equipment coming through. So that I just wanted to come and put that out.
So I would put in a stipulation I would put in a stipulation that abutters within a certain distance, if they request to have their well tested before they start construction, the developer would fund that testing, and then after
And then afterwards.
construction, fund that testing to, you know.
No, I
give you a
said, when I
sense of-
moved here, that was my concern with the golf course
Right.
fell on.
But didn't we do that
We-
for some wells at Iron Mine?
We did that for quite a few, and they may have even been, I think there was actually a plan for periodic testing after.
Right.
So,
I know I did it, when I moved, I had it
Right.
tested just for a baseline kind of thing.
right, and that's what we would do. That's what he's suggesting here. We'd do that and then test afterwards, so,
Okay.
thank you. Certainly.
Yeah, my concern there would be attribution to our 6 acres versus the, I don't know, 150 acre plan on his side of the road. How would we possibly be able to identify where a contaminant
Well,
is?
if we're taking a baseline measurement prior to you starting construction,
Yeah.
and there's a change after construction is finished or during construction, it would seem to point at the cause.
It could. Watershed hydrology, yeah.
Exception to that
Yeah.
conclusion.
Okay.
You know, in order to come to that conclusion, you would need some really, really deep scientific studies in terms of water flow, in terms of how it flowed from, and again, we're talking about a construction vehicle. So you'd have to attribute this construction vehicle and that something came off of that construction vehicle and somehow, you know, affected a well. These are open public streets. I mean, who's gonna monitor what happens
Mhm.
when? So I think that's a very difficult proposition to say, we're gonna monitor beforehand, have a baseline, and then when we're finished, we're gonna measure it again, and it's attributable to your construction project. I think that's a really difficult stipulation to have.
I'll say fair enough, and I know that one of the reasons we stipulated as much testing on the other site is because they did have blasting. And blasting has a different impact on groundwater.
Understood.
So we'll consider that. Thank you.
I would say that it's not unreasonable to ask for his well to be tested.
Right.
It's not up to us to decide what if there's a difference, what caused it. But I don't think it's an unreasonable request.
No, and I don't think we're talking about the extensive testing that we required for the other side either, right?
It's
Mr.
an
Punchak?
$800 insurance policy. If you test it in the beginning, it costs you $800. You get to the end, nothing's changed. Okay, done. You get to the end, a butter comes along and says, hey, there's something wrong with my well. Well, how do you ever say, well, you know what, it's, pound tar? I don't really buy that. I can understand, yes, anything could potentially happen, but for potentially 2 or 3 wells, it's short money, in my opinion, to give some people a little bit of comfort that, hey, these guys came over, they built this project, and our well is exactly how it was. To me, that's a little bit, goodwill, maybe.
That is more reasonable. I did hear someone mention more periodic rather than like this.
No, that was what we stipulated on a previous project, the
Okay.
big one across the street. But again, there, because of the blasting, that had a much longer term impact on the water.
And again, it's people that request it.
That makes more
Right.
sense. Yeah, some comfort there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Any other comments from the public? No? Mr. Keene?
Not the public, but,
Well,
yeah,
we need-
if I can make a point, I'd like to.
right now, if you're gonna make a point on the board, we'll close the,
Oh, okay.
if
I'll
we're done
wait.
with the public hearing, then we can close that out. So I need a motion for that.
I'll move that we close the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Public hearing is closed at 7:55. Now, comments from the board. Mr. Keene, I believe you have something?
Thank you. Yes, and again, this parcel sits within a contiguous forest that extends from basically that parcel west to Grange Road, and as far south as you can see to Reservoir 3. It's a huge forest, and again, our comprehensive plan addresses this issue about fragmentation due to development. So I know at one time there was a project that, another solar project where the owners, where we considered, well, the owners offered to transfer ownership of the property after the life of the solar project to the town. And I think that was a great concept. That was the first time I'd heard it. Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
We gotta keep on point. Mr. Leo's not here, so.
Yeah, yeah, we gotta go with the project as proposed.
Well, and
We
so-
gotta do this project and this project alone.
Yeah.
not-
Okay, but my point is I'm concerned about forest defragmentation. And 22 acres, I understand that it's not the full 22 acres that you're gonna be cutting. I don't know how much of it is, but we just gave up, we continue to give up forest area to solar projects, and this is a sizable one. So I've got concerns about that.
Could we get the exact number for subsequent presentation, by the way?
Yeah, I have it.
Oh, you have it now? Oh, great.
Yeah, it was presented last time too. So the lot, that lot 19, the back lot, that's the 22 plus or minus acres. The fence is 6 acres, right?
Okay,
The tree cutting, which includes the detention basins, shade trees, right? That's 12 acres.
okay,
So it's much less.
right. Okay, thank you.
So 18 total?
No,
No.
no,
Well,
the
The
6 is within the 12.
is within the 12,
So 12 total.
right.
Okay. Okay,
And some of that 12 is only trimming, correct? Not complete cutting?
right. Okay. Sir, go ahead, Mr. Porter.
So, I'm gonna take a different path from Mr. Carullo's recommendations. I'm going to say that what's been proposed to us this evening and at our last meeting is actually inconsistent with our town's comprehensive plan. While it may check off the renewable energy box, it causes concern with quite a few other goals and action items that we have in our comp plan. One being the goal 3 in the land use, which is to prevent incompatible non-residential uses in residential neighborhoods. Goals number 1, 2, and 4 in the natural resources, where goal 1 reads, natural resource systems, wetlands, wildlife habitats, groundwater aquifers will be protected. And the action item on that, 1A2, is protect existing natural environments and mitigate impacts of proposed development on those environments. Goal number 2 from that natural resources is maintain the rural character in concert with concisely located development or redevelopment of existing areas. And goal number 4, restore degraded waters and aquatic habitats to a condition that meets their water quality and habitat goals. And I bring that one up because that one speaks directly to the policy that Mr. Keene has been referencing, is to protect the forest lands of statewide importance with an emphasis on those areas actively in farm, forest, and open space. So that's one, and then there's a few others in open space and recreation. Goal number 2, protect the town's natural resources while preserving rural areas. And actions that follow that is preserve land based on criteria, including but not limited to size, adjacent protected parcels, significant natural resources, rare or endangered species or habitat, significant cultural features, development potential, road access, etc. And then action 2B1, which is cooperate with the city of Woonsocket in the implementation of its water quality protection plan for the city's watershed and reservoir properties in North Smithfield. I bring that one up because, as we've heard, this abuts the city of Woonsocket property, which is identified in our comp plan as W2, reservoir number 3 watershed. So that brings up a concern of mine that we are affecting potential drinking water in this area. So while, yes, we check off one box of our comp plan, we do not check off all of those other boxes. And my other concern is that the variances that are being requested for zoning are self-imposed. There's no reason why they can't simply conform with our zoning ordinance. These are self-imposed restrictions or hardships that could very easily be, that could very easily be adhered to. So those are my concerns that with this project. You know, I forgot what your last name is, but you know, we've had in the past plenty of correspondence with the city of Woonsocket to make sure that we are protecting drinking water issues, and I would have liked to see some more correspondence in regards to that. That's just something for my knowledge, but yeah, those were kind of the items that I have concern with.
Okay. Anybody else? Before
It's a pretty extensive list.
I was going to add to it.
You can tell I've been reading the comp plan too much.
Yes, need to get insomnia, but that's okay. Well, in addition, you know, some of the other things that you brought up, the zoning things, but another part of concern for me, because we've dealt with it in the past too, is the fact that it is landlocked and that it requires frontage. So obviously all the mechanical, you know, the house, that's all been put on the property, so that's good. But requiring access to roads via another lot, that works out great for as long as that easement and contract are in place to do that. But should you sell your lot, now you've got to sell it and say, well, but this comes along with it, kind of thing. Because obviously the life of the project is fairly long. I would think, assuming you're 30 years, right? Typical 30 years. So that gives me some concern. And then as Mr. Porter pointed out, the less than zoned setbacks on the northerly side, in particular, that seems like it should be able to be worked around, but there's just a lot of things that don't fit right now. We're kind of fitting a square peg in a round hole is how it feels to me. So, anyone else? So,
I have one more question. Would they be required to do an archaeological study there?
Not unless the board stipulates it.
is that an area that, no? The Heritage Association says no, so we'll go with that. Yeah, we'll go with that. Although I do appreciate the comments on the contiguous forest, that's not to be ignored. So with that, are we ready for a vote?
You had some comments specifically.
Oh, yes, you did. I'm sorry, you mentioned that early on. Thank you.
I do want to address your last comment. I do want to point out that the project had been significantly redesigned as a result of concerns that this board had given to us in terms of the northern buffer. And we had moved the project up because of the grading. You may recall there was a steeper grade down below.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And the board had raised concerns with that and asked us to move the
And
solar array.
And actually, to your credit, you're right, and actually shrunk the area within the fence quite a bit.
It did.
Doing all that, you know,
We
those things.
shrunk
Yes.
the solar array overall to make
Right.
it fit in the confines that it's in now as a result of the original comments we received from the board, so I just wanted to make
Gotcha.
that clear.
Mhm.
In terms of the stipulations, I think we're fine with most of them. We would just ask with respect to some of the fire, the cistern and the road, that we be given an opportunity to confer with the fire department before those become stipulations. In other words, we would take the recommendation of what the fire department tells us they need up there, but at least give us the opportunity to have the discussion with the fire department.
Yep. 1 second on that. Mr. Carrillo, wouldn't that have happened as part of the initial application? Wouldn't there have been correspondence?
So as the process works, the application came in, there was an analysis done by the department, it was circulated to all departments, including fire department, and those stipulations came from the fire department.
Oh, okay. So what we have in is from the fire department?
That's correct.
I was just asking if we could have an opportunity to have those discussions with the fire department before they become final stipulations, that's all. I think what we're suggesting is part of an emergency plan, that the fire department can identify if it needs a cistern, if we need an access road.
I'm pretty sure you can talk to the fire department anytime. I don't think we control access to the fire department.
No, I understand. I'm just saying in terms of the stipulations, I would just ask that those two stipulations be combined into just the emergency plan.
Because we would need to obviously get something in writing from the fire chief.
Yeah, there's a recommendation as it stands. One of the stipulations is there has to be a safety plan that involves the police department and the fire department.
That's correct.
So I'm just suggesting wrapping those into that stipulation.
If they're good with it, who are we to say otherwise?
I'm asking, just suggesting. I think that with respect to the utility connections, there's a statement that the existing utility connections are not compliant with zoning. There was some discussion back and forth about that at the last meeting. National Grid essentially tells us where to put the infrastructure. So all we're asking with respect to that stipulation is that it just reference that it has to be in compliance with the zoning section. And the outcome will be, in some regard, dictated by Grid on that point.
Yeah, I don't think it's with the connection, because you have the whole connection on your property, and that's always a concern for us. It's the access that leaves your property because it's landlocked, which is not the connection itself, right? Because that is on your property, correct?
Yeah, I understand. Well, there was some discussion about that at the.
So the interconnection is technically supposed to be at the street, from the customer pole down to, the equipment is supposed to be underground. Right now, we're being told that National Grid is saying, no, they want everything above ground to the property line. So we did ask for a letter or something from National Grid, indicating that that is in fact what they want.
And we will provide that to the board. And then the only other issue was, there's, in the stipulation, it says the Conservation Commission must approve plans relative to the birds and bats and so forth. I would just suggest that it needs to be a recommendation, because under state law, the Conservation Commission makes recommendations. It doesn't have authority to approve. That's the only suggestion there. Those are, that was it.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts from the board? You're looking for a motion then?
From the advice of our solicitor at previous meetings, there should be a recommendation in the positive.
Actually, I would like to back up one step. One of the things that we had discussed at the last meeting, but then because it was continued, we didn't set it up. And I'm gonna ask the board if you still feel like it's worthwhile, which is to do a site visit. And would that have an impact on, that's what I'm wondering, whether that would have value and therefore be something we should do first.
I think it's prudent.
Where are we on the calendar for this project?
Well, you're at master plan, you haven't approved the master plan yet, so it's in the process. Any action that you take at this point, you're still considering this application. There's no.
Oh, so right now we're not on the clock?
No.
Okay, thank you.
We can accommodate a site plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be later than 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Some people work.
Yes, some of us work. Mr. Porter, you have thoughts on that? site visit?
Personally, I think, I'm torn with this project right now. I agree that being landlocked, it's a good use. But there's so many stipulations and variances and just, you know, things that you've, like Jeff said, imposed upon yourself that I don't really love the project. So I think that a site visit may potentially help me one way or the other, really make a decision. I think that the concerns of the neighbors, you know, view profiles and stuff like that can be addressed through plantings and, you know, methodologies. The closest neighbor is a proponent of it, so if he's okay with, you know, not having anything on the northern section and being able to see the backside of those panels, and, you know, that's his prerogative. The access to it, I can, you know, see that if down the road, you know, the owner of the access, and, you know, if something falls apart, well, they do have legal agreements that will carry with the land as long as it's recorded, you know, in the town records. So there's not much that we can really do about that. It would take a lot to break those at this point. So, you know, the interconnect I don't really like, you know, but if National Grid is saying that's what you gotta do, then that's what you gotta do. So I think that a site visit for me would, you know, help me one way or the other, really decide, you know, how I wanna go with this application.
I'm gonna disagree, because looking at everything that's been presented thus far, looking at our comp plan, I don't think it's in line with it. And I don't think a site walk is gonna help determine if this is in compliance with our comp plan.
And that's a fair statement. So I think the board should comment on agreement or not with the statements of consistency with the comp plan.
It's subjective, though. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Things like that can be taken two ways depending on how you want to take it. So I agree with your comments, but I also do agree with some of Mark's comments regarding its, you know, application to the comp plan. So I could go either way on it right now, and I don't know what the deciding factor for me really is. It's solar farms have not been proven thus far to cause water issues. There's not a study out there yet that proves it one way or the other. So I can understand if I lived close by and I had water coming from a well, I can definitely, you know, understand the concern and would probably want, you know, to have the peace of mind of having my water tested. So I can see that. As far as water leaving the site, they can't. If the engineer did his job, the water that lands on that site is not allowed to leave that site. It goes into those detention ponds, those, you know, the sediment basins. So are we causing a change to the watershed to that reservoir? Well, in theory, you could potentially be improving it because you're collecting, you're allowing it to filter and infiltrate into the ground before it is ultimately getting there. Is the flow of that water going to change? Drastically, you know, but again, you're collecting it, you're keeping it on your site. So what are our impacts to that reservoir? Unless they have some major failure in one of those retention ponds, detention ponds, you know, and we end up with a ton of silt in there, well then, get out the checkbook, you know, it's in their interest to make sure that those ponds are built properly, otherwise they're gonna have problems. So again, right now, I could go either way with it, you know.
Right. So right now, we've got a yes and a no for a site visit. Got a yes. Ms. Menard, what's your comment on that?
I would feel a site visit would be informative, yes.
Yeah. I'm inclined to agree on that because I share some of Mr. Punchak's views that, and I'm a very visual person, so that's just kind of a personal thing where being able to see it, seeing what the abutters are seeing, walking the contours instead of just looking at a topographical map, all those kinds of things. So I would look for us to defer the vote and pending a site visit, but a site visit to be scheduled relatively soon, enjoying all this nice spring, May weather we're getting. Let's not pick a rainy day. And just, it'd be best if we could hold something that's at least from 4 o'clock on.
Yeah,
Would that work? You could be anywhere.
That's why I said 4 o'clock, so maybe like 4:30 plus.
Yeah, so that, just to accommodate those of us at work schedules, so.
I would have a question for the applicant, because we have
Okay.
had issue. If all members of this board are gonna be present, that constitutes an open meeting, which would mean that the public would have to be allowed on the property. Is that going to be an issue for you?
We want to make this as streamlined as possible. And if that's what it's going to take, I think, we want to be accommodating. It would seem to me at this point that yes, like, we can open it up.
Yeah,
and we can walk.
I doubt it's gonna be a large group, right?
That's
So it's,
fun. I mean, honestly,
yeah.
we like the site for solar. If you believe in solar energy, as we do, as I think the town comp plan, suggests renewable energy, this isn't nothing to hide on the site.
Right.
So that's not a problem. I mean,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay, great.
My concern here is timing, right? Like, we
Mhm.
lost a month because of the notice issue, and we apologize for that, we fixed
Mhm.
that. If we defer tonight, we're gonna lose, another month before we can keep things, moving forward potentially. This is not the end all be all. We can't break ground tomorrow with a yes vote,
Mhm.
right? I mean, I think you mentioned that there's a procedure here where we look at the stipulations, we do a preliminary application, there's multiple bites at this apple to make sure that we're compliant with police, fire, archaeological, if that, becomes something. And to defer an entire month just to allow the council to go out there, we're happy to have you out there anytime. But it has an impact on timing, it has an impact on a lot of different things. And we'd like to move forward, because you're gonna have another bite of the apple after you guys walk the site, for sure.
Mhm. Thoughts on that, board?
Just Fridays are not good.
What's that?
Just putting out there, Fridays are not good.
Fridays are not good.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So the board could go out there as a group, if that's your preference,
Mhm.
and it would have to be advertised and noticed.
Yes.
There's also the option of 2 members going out in groups of 2. You could do it that way too, and that way you would not have to advertise it as a meeting. It's really it's the board's prerogative, but that's an option.
Personally, I think it's better as a board, and also I think there's more than 2 people that want to see it, so
No, I
rather
mean,
than
you
doing
could go in
multiple
groups of
visits like
2.
that, I think it'd be good, and frankly, if some of the public's there, it's good to, they probably haven't had a chance to walk the property in thoroughly either, and so it can be enlightening for everybody, so.
Understood.
I'd prefer to do that. The earliest we could do it is what, 2 weeks from today? Or something?
No, you could, no.
Well, we have to allow,
You could do a 48-hour notice. That's the minimum requirement. It's not a public hearing. It's not a public informational meeting. So as far as the statutory requirements of the 14-day notice, those are not in effect.
Oh, great.
It would be a special meeting of the board for a site visit, and minimum 48 hours notice.
So I think
So I would say,
in
if you want to
consideration-
schedule it within the next week,
Yeah, I was
so
just
that
gonna
we
say,
would
in
have the
consideration
opportunity
of-
to post on the Secretary of State,
Right.
because that's what we would need
So
to
in
do.
consideration of the applicant's, desire to move forward, I would hope, could we do something as early as the latter part of next week, like next
How
Thursday?
about next Thursday?
Huh?
I have Howell.
You have Halloween? Well, what time is that? If we do it,
4:30 next Thursday.
if we do it at 4:30, if you have to cut out a little early, you can just cut out a little early.
Does that work for you guys, 4:30 next Thursday?
I can't say right on the spot. I mean, we're doing it as quickly as possible. Yeah, sounds good.
Right. Yeah, the following Thursday, right? Right. As Mr. Porter just pointed out to me, that this also gives us the option, after the site visit, of holding a special meeting of the board the following Thursday. So then you're only waiting 2 weeks and not a month.
Procedurally, we just.
That would move it along. Yeah, we're just trying to accommodate, yeah, so.
More basically, move forward tonight.
It fits. It fits
That
with.
might not work in your favor, though, that's
Yeah,
okay.
I think this is the best way to do it, right? I was a middle child, so I'm always finding, so. But I also run a software company, so I like moving fast too, so. So everybody good with that? Next Thursday at 4:30?
What's the actual address that we're meeting at?
Right.
So with his permission, it would be at this.
At the 850 Ironmont Hill Road? Okay.
$850,
And-
850.
And for what it's worth, WeatherMate says partly cloudy and 71 degrees for next Thursday, so. Yeah. Is it something where by the way, do we need long pants, whatever, protection from briars, things like that?
I was having a data briar in the past.
Yeah, that's what I thought, okay.
Ticks.
Yeah,
And
ticks.
yeah, right, okay. Okay,
So what do we do from here? Continue?
I would, to be honest with you, I would continue, pending your site visit, and then I would continue consideration to the next planning board meeting, which would be June 9th.
well, we're thinking that possibly we could do it on the,
You'd have
in between-
you'd have to notice the meeting, so.
well,
If you don't continue to a date certain, you're going to have to renotice the meeting.
so why don't we just continue it to that?
That's what I just recommend, that's as I
Oh,
recommended,
okay,
to the June meeting. So in the interim, you do your site visit,
What,
No, he wants to do it.
you have to renotice the meeting.
you're saying we wouldn't have time to renotice that meeting?
Why do we have to renotice if we're gonna continue to June?
You can, if you continue it to a date certain, you have to choose your date certain. It has to be whatever that date is.
And we're saying 2 weeks from today?
Well, you do, was it May 26th?
No, it's the,
Yes, it is, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
okay, if it's, I was,
yeah, so we'll commit to that date of May,
May,
yes,
so,
May 26th.
so there will be a site visit on June 9th. That's going to
No,
be
no, no.
posted.
No,
No, no,
next
Of May
Thursday,
9th, I'm sorry.
19.
19th.
May 19th for the site visit, May
All right.
26th for the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Long day.
I got you.
We're going to notice the meeting at the site on the Secretary of State. There's no newspaper notice requirement, and there is no mail notice requirement.
For both of these dates.
The date certain is going to be a motion right now to continue this meeting as it's been noticed to a date certain of May 26th at 7
Right, But
PM.
he's talking about for the site visit.
The site visit does not require a date, so we've set the date. We're going to put out a notice.
Right.
It'll be posted on the Secretary of State site. That is all that's required. It will be a special meeting to enable a site visit.
Right.
That
So
is
no-
it.
So no
There'll be no business
notification
conducted.
required on
No
their part.
notice.
Okay. Which is, I
If
think,
they
what
want
you're asking.
notice, if someone wants to, it'll be on the Secretary of State site. That is the requirement. 48 hours in advance, but it'll be long before that.
Gotcha, okay? Does that answer your question on that?
Well, and but then a week later is a continuance of this meeting.
Correct.
Yes,
Date certain.
correct,
Hence, no additional notice.
No notice for that meeting.
correct.
The notice is right now, if they vote on it.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing until a date certain of
Information.
May 26th at 7 PM, same place.
Second.
And we have a second. Roll call vote, Mr. Punchak,
Yes.
Mr. Porter,
Yes.
Mr. Keen,
Yes.
Mr. Menard.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. And then we have to have a second motion ready for the site visit, correct?
Yeah, you should do that in the form of a motion, special meeting.
I'll make a motion to schedule a site visit on May 19th at 4:30 PM
At 8:50.
I'll second
at,
that.
at 850 Iron Mine Hill Road.
Correct. And we have a second. Mr. Punchak?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mr. Keen?
Yes.
Mr. Menard?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. So we have our 2 meetings scheduled. Anything else, Mr. Corolla?
I was just gonna ask, for our meeting that's continued to May 26th, can we get an updated list of stipulations as they stand? Because I think we've also added no blasting.
Yeah, I've got
EDF
no
agreement.
blasting, I've got testing of
Yep.
wells,
Yep.
and then at the applicant's request, for the fire, I would add something in the language of upon concurrence of fire, the fire
Sure.
department.
Or if you have discussions with the fire department within the next 2 weeks, we could take,
That would be for them to have, yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
You also said no poison for the landscape.
Yep,
Correct,
I
yes.
haven't gotten down my list yet, but that's one of them.
Like water and the yellow and everything.
Yep, so no chemical removals of landscaping. We talked about the well testing. And that's it for my list. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. We're good?
I think I would add a third one to the utility connection requiring a letter from the National Grid.
Yes.
I've gotten that written down too. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so we will update those stipulations for the next meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you all very much. Okay, so that was that one. That wasn't bad. I know.
You know,
I didn't know how it was gonna go. Despise us, you know? Okay, so next on the agenda, Hallowell Review Committee update for informational purposes only.
Yes, so the Hallowell Committee's been busy, and I want to kind of provide an update to everybody. We've been working and doing some grant research, reaching out, as you probably have seen in newspaper articles, that we've been reaching out to folks like the YMCA. We've also been, continuing, the reason why I was so in-depth in the comp plan is because we're making sure what we're doing as far as the Hallowell property goes is also in line with the comp plan. As you guys know, we've revised the comp plan, but that hasn't been formally adopted to include things like the Hallowell property, the police station, and the like of that, with all the town services. So one of the things that we are looking to do is have almost a bigger joint meeting. We want to have the continuous collaboration with a lot of the boards and committees in town, planning board being one of them. We've also invited Parks and Rec to attend our next meeting on June 2nd. We've invited the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, we've invited Conservation Commission, we've invited the Arts Committee, and my invitation is for this evening for the planning board as well, just because everybody on this board knows best of, how this town is moving forward, where we'd like to see the town in the next 10, 15, 20 years, how a community center could potentially be falling into play as we move into the future. So it's one of those things where I talked with Mr. Igliozzi about having a joint meeting with all the various boards. He said as long as they advertise it accordingly as their own separate meetings, that we could do that. Or there's the other option of having a representative from the one board, so it's not a huge joint meeting with 5 or 6 different committees going on at once. So I wanted to, again, offer the invitation out to the planning board to certainly join us, but also see if we wanted to just send along a member to be part of the discussion. Like I said, one of the things that we're really big into is collaboration, and we want to be hearing from all the different boards and groups within town. We also invited the board of trustees from the library before, so I'm trying not to forget anybody. Which the library has kind of been left by the wayside in our comp plan because they were gonna go in the Andrews Mill, which has now been purchased by Neighborhood Works.
Right.
So the library is kind of, we've had preliminary discussions with the library, but they've been maxed out. They can't really do any further expansion.
Right.
They're limited on their programming based on their footprint, so things like that. So I really wanted to, again, just extend the invitation out to either the board or a member of the board to be the representative of the planning board for that June 2nd meeting, be part of the discussion. I understand it's a big undertaking to get so many folks involved, but we really want to hear, we're a 9-member board every other Thursday night, and we need to hear some more voices.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It's my understanding that we can all attend as,
Citizens.
yeah, as citizens, as long as we're not collaborating. Yeah, thank you.
Well, and also you can't be representing like, you can't say, well, I'm from the planning board.
Right.
It's just you,
Yeah. Sure.
And that's true, but I think what Jeff is looking for is to have at least a representative that is formally
Okay.
sort of
Yeah, I don't
representing the
have a
planning board,
problem with
correct?
that, He's the.
I was gonna designate Mike.
That's what you guess we're not showing.
No,
Oh, Mike.
yeah,
I guess not, Mike.
everybody took one step
Hope you're not
back.
in Texas, June 2nd.
Yeah. But, yeah, and I think that's better than actually having having the board, because then it just gets really complicated, especially if all of them do that. That'd be crazy,
But if that's gonna be one delegate from the board, then maybe part of our 26th meeting at the end, we kind of just put some ideas together what the board is looking for to send as a message.
Yeah, I would expect whoever does that,
Or even through.
while
I guess
they're gonna have their own
We
ideas.
can't do it through an email, right, because that'd be a quorum.
Yep.
Correct.
We'd have to do it in our meeting.
Yeah, gather your thoughts and then
just
do it
throw
as,
out our ideas, gets jotted down, and one person
Right.
takes it as a
and at each
delegate.
meeting, I would expect the delegate's gonna give a recap of what's going on, and as well as get the new feedback to.
If I could make a suggestion, I would be willing to be the conduit. If you gentlemen had ideas, you could send them to me instead of to each other. I could compile them
Actually,
and then
yeah,
prepare that for whatever that meeting is, so that,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
so that you have them in advance of the meeting.
Right. Great.
Have you talked to youth sports organizations at all? Baseball, soccer?
We're starting with Parks and Rec, and then, well, there's so many community groups in this town, so.
Right.
And all of them have a stake in this, so we wanted to identify some that we felt, like the Parks and Rec, they've already have the community garden down there, we've already started
Right.
that dialogue. The seniors, citizens advisory group, they really need and want a space, so we were gonna have the conversation with them to make sure that they're included. So while, yes, we have all of these groups in mind, we haven't formally reached out to every single group, because we're taking little bites instead of a big bite. Are you suggesting the soccer association is looking for some more fields?
We'll definitely take a field.
I'm still gonna put my comment of it being a community center / public safety. I still feel as if that property is a great location for public safety, centralized, and yet you can still incorporate your community center that would service all, not only the senior center, and because we talked about, we don't want to designate that as just as a senior center, because that's a label, but it could service any group that wanted to use it on a designated night, as long as it was reserved.
Right.
Have you seen the Plainville, Mass? They have like the fire department, and like that whole complex they have. It's pretty fancy.
Yeah. So, but the topic for this evening is to decide on that representation, is that? And then,
Richard, what are you doing on the 26th? I mean, on the second?
so,
He's got too many hats.
I was gonna say, I kinda like the idea, if there's no volunteer tonight, that we
Send Mike?
send Mike.
yeah, no, if no one is interested, I've been interested in being on the Hallowell committee
Yeah, well,
since the beginning.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of things that could be done with that property and have it truly be, and I see it as being more than a community resource, that it could actually be a regional resource, which could have some revenue generation capability too. But anyway, so.
I would nominate,
I nominate
If you're,
Gary.
hey, well,
There's any nomination to be taken, you already put the hat on.
He gave it to us.
in an odd sort of way, I'm wondering why you're so eager to let me do that, but okay. But it's good, because I didn't want, I know, and I didn't want to take away from everyone else, anyone else, but, no, I'd be happy to do it.
Then we'll see you on June 2nd at 6:30.
Okay, June 2nd.
And we'll send
You'll send emails to this effect.
And whatever comments.
Yeah,
Forward it to Gary?
Nope. Well, I mean, he will, but I'm just saying, send everything
He'll
to
compile
him.
the list and get it to you.
Yep.
And you will go to, in representation of the board.
Absolutely.
And represent us well.
Thank you, Gary.
I'll edit, I'll make my editorial changes and then I'll present it.
What the heck is he thinking?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
But you know that I'll have sports in mind, although
I think right now,
I think.
because we're getting to the point of going into the master plan. So we're trying to gather as much input and information that when we do put out an RFQ for master plan services, that we can compile that into a report, hand that to a architecture engineering firm, and give them the ability to say, listen, we've started to do your homework for you. Here's a lot of the information that we're hearing from town boards, town residents, and just kind of lay the groundwork for them so that they can take off and run with it. So that's my spiel for Hallowell right now.
Good pitch.
Well, if that's the last item, then all that's left is adjournment.
So moved.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay? Second. Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nope. We are adjourned at 8:37. Full 23 minutes ahead of my target.